What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Houston Roundball Review presents Let's Talk Houston Rockets. I am, of course, KG Kris Gardner, owner of the Houston Roundball Review. And joining me momentarily, Mr. Kelly Iko from The Athletic, the beat writer, one of the beat writers for that covers the Rockets. Kelly will be joining us shortly. Let's see if you had any time on the responses from the poll question just yet. Iko wrote about it. We're going to discuss it as well, among other things. And of course, Rocket fans, it's almost that time. It's almost that time.
Pray for Victor.
One more time.
Pray for Victor.
So, Ace Times Finest, how you doing? The poll question is based on Iko's write-up in The Athletic Thursday or Friday. If the Rockets win the lottery and get the first pick, select Wemby. Who would be the starting five for that? The starting five would be Wemby. It's Iko's projection, of course. Wemby, Jabari, Al P, Jalen Green, and KPJ. Poll question is up for you guys to chime in and give your thoughts on what you prefer. Other two options, if Rockets pick second, they get Scoot, Jalen, KPJ, Jabari, LP. Third pick, or if they decide to toss it up and go Brandon Miller, Jabari, LP, KPJ, Jalen Green. Votes, Tom, you can vote for pretty much throughout the show. We'll see. I'm not going to cut it off. 30 minutes. You got time to chime in and give your thoughts on that. Which starting five do you prefer of those three options? Wise Citizens, May 16th, 7 p.m. Before game one of Denver Lakers, the lottery show will be on ESPN. All the hype surrounding it take up 20 minutes, first 20 minutes. And then the last 5-10 minutes, they'll announce, the teams. And then, of course, with the third pick, with the fourth pick, and then the third pick, then the last two, envelope, whichever team comes up second, you know who's going to be first. And remember, for those who are not regular members of the Let's Talk Houston Rockets family, if my Detroit Pistons get the first pick on that Let's Talk Houston Rockets show come Tuesday evening at 7:35, I will be ignorant for about a minute or two, and then we'll discuss the Rockets. But he is ready, young man who knows more about the Rockets than I do. Going to bring him in, none other than Kelly Iko. Young brother, how are you, man?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Doing great. Slide to your right.
Just to my right.
There you go. Yeah. You in the center. All right. So we got Rocket fans chiming in. Kelly Iko, as promised, he said he would join in and participate in tonight's show on this edition of Let's Talk Houston Rockets. So I'm pretty certain he is willing to answer some questions from Rocket fans, as long as it's nothing outlandish and ridiculous. But I want to get your thoughts on it. You wrote about it in The Athletic, the possible starting five projections. See, you got a fan out already. Ace Times Finest says, "What's up, Kelly?" See,
man? Appreciate
it. In your opinion, do you have a favorite of those three?
You mean in terms of when
starting five lineup?
Wow. Not necessarily. I mean, I think the most important thing going forward should be Jabari Smith and Jalen Green in terms of the two young cornerstones on that roster. Obviously, depending on where they end up in the lottery, you could add potentially Victor Wembanyama, Brandon Miller, Scoot Henderson, but the bulk or the cornerstones of that roster moving forward are Jabari Smith Jr. and Jalen Green. And anything else should, involve those guys first. If they get Victor, do you slide Jabari to the 3 and then play Victor next to Alperen Sengun? That's a possibility. We also know that Ime Udoka likes a certain type of big man, and he even talked about it during his introductory press conference. So could Victor play next to a big man not named Alperen Sengun? That's also a possibility. looking at guys like Brandon Miller. Does he slot into that three spot? Does he have to compete with guys like Tari Eason, KJ Martin, Jashawn Tate for those minutes? Scooter Henderson, obviously, as a point guard, is a position of great need for this roster, and you would assume that he would take those reins. But now, what do you do with Kevin Porter Jr.? Do you bring him off the bench? Do you slide him back to his natural position, which is small forward? There are many different ways this roster can go, depending on how Tuesday shapes out. But it's going to be a pretty interesting couple of days.
Indeed, and let me answer this question. Dre Fields asked a question about the lottery time. So, yep, it's going to be at 7 p.m. Tuesday for Lakers Nuggets at 7:30 tip off. So, yes. So, fans, I heard it from the man right there. And anybody, before they ask in the comment section, I'm going to ask you: will the Rockets? How serious is it? Any rumors about Rockets trading Jalen Green?
I mean, I don't think so. Here's how I'll put it. I don't think they're actively looking to trade Jalen Green. I think it's more of they envision on building with that guy going forward. But anytime you hear of all NBA players come around, the Jalen Browns of the world, Luka Doncic's, players of that ilk, if it comes down to it, when you think about it in a vacuum, there shouldn't be any untouchable guys on this roster. But I will say that I would be pretty damn shocked if they traded Jalen Green, especially given how the first two seasons have gone. How excited Ime Udoka was to work with Jalen and Jabari. I'd be pretty shocked if they just end up moving those guys. But this is the NBA. But if you're on the edge, if you're feeling antsy about them potentially moving on, I think you can calm down for now. I don't think they're trying to move Jalen Green.
Agree. We discussed that in previous shows with our man Adam with Spo as well. Another question for you: do you think the draft pick has any bearing on whether or not the Rockets will aggressively pursue James Harden?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think the good thing about the draft being before free agency is it allows you to kind of get an early outline of what your roster looks like, and then you can pinpoint what you need in free agency. So, for example, if the Rockets end up with a pick, let's say they get Victor, right? They still have a burning need for a point guard, which then lends you to free agency and seeing which of those names could you get, either James Harden or Van Vliet or whatever. Now, if they get the second pick, even if they got Scoot Henderson, I still think they would look to go bring in a veteran point guard. Now, it might not be, they might not be as aggressive as they might have been with other targets because they have Scoot Henderson, but I still think they're going to bring in a veteran point guard no matter what. So, yes and no, the draft does impact free agency, but at the end of the day, these guys are looking for structure, and given where they've been the last 2 or 3 years without that kind of cohesiveness, it does come from a lack of having a point guard on the floor. And when you have an opportunity to bring in someone like that, like a James Harden or Brandon Vliet or whatever, you're going to be aggressive, and they have the cap space to do so. They have the familiarity to do so. There are a lot of factors in their favor if they choose to go down that route. With James. Now, granted, the Sixers are still in the playoffs. They still have a great chance to make the conference finals and maybe the NBA finals. So some of that stuff is premature, but there's going to be a natural link between James and Houston just because of the history and everything that's gone on between those two parties. So, yeah.
A few more questions for you, and like I said, my man knows the Rockets more than I do. He's a Rockets beat writer. Him and Fagan are 1A. Couple more questions for you. A lot of more questions for you. Rocket fans are tuning in on the YouTube channel as well as on Twitter. Let's see. If your thoughts on this in the Wemby scenario, if Jabari starts at the 3, he needs to work on his handles.
That's true. And that's kind of what they try to do with him late in the season, get him more comfortable, because remember he was in a pretty deep shooting slump for a large part of the year. And it was down to a number of things: mechanics, confidence, overall team chaos, him overthinking stuff. The last quarter of the season, the last 20 or so games, he looked more like the player the Rockets thought they were bringing in. Now, granted, the ball handling still needs work, especially if you want to be able to create on the elbows. Like you see so many of these 6'10", 6'11" shooters Jason Tatum. He's not 6'8", but Jason Tatum, Kevin Durant, those lengthy forwards that can create over small defenders. They have advanced handles. Jabari's not there yet, but he's 20 years old, 19 years old.
Mm-hmm.
He can still get there. He still has time. Allow him to develop. I think that will come eventually. And even if he doesn't get to a handle where he's like handling like a Chris Paul or whatever, as long as he has a decent, suitable handle, if he has the jump shot ability, I think that overpowers him having an elite dribble. Like if he can pull up over, a 6'5", 6'6" defender and shoot from the elbows and hit it at a 51% clip, it doesn't really matter if his handle is AI, shaking back, whatever. I think the more important thing is getting that confidence, getting that rhythm, so he can actually, take those shots and hit those shots with continuance.
I want to thank Alan Luna for his contribution here. I'm going to post his comment up. Hope the lottery will be kind to us again this year. Pray for Victor. We'll see. Me and Iko, we cover Rocks. We're not fans, so.
Yeah, we'll see.
How about this? How about Victor at the 3 in that scenario between him and Jabari and LP?
At the 3, I think because of his defensive ability, you would want him closer to 5, so that makes putting him at the 4. He's more of a natural power forward anyway, even though he's a modern day power forward. But honestly speaking, depending on who your 3 is or whatever, if you have Jabari and Wemby and whatever, you can be pretty fluid in terms of those lineups. You don't have to be. The NBA these days is not rigid. You don't have to stick to the 3 just because you're playing the 4 or whatever. You can optimize, mix and match, whatever, how the defense is showing. So the most important thing is getting talented guys on the floor. The Rockets are not there. They have a long way to go in terms of putting a cohesive product on the floor. Once you get that, if you get Victor, can you play with 3? Sure. If you have a decent center, if you have a decent, there are ways to mix and match these lineups. So I wouldn't say Wemby has to only play the 4 if he comes to Houston, but they do need a much more talented roster from 1 to 15 if that's going to happen.
Agree. Yeah, upgrading the roster. That's the bottom line right there. No question.
That's the bottom line right there.
All right. From Justin, all this content, but the question is, will John Lucas be part of Coach Udoka's staff?
I think that's to be determined. I know right now Ime is doing the process of going to meet with the players wherever they are around the country and trying to get that familiarity with them, trying to work out with them, get to know them on a personal level. At the same time, he's still building his staff. Sometimes you got to wait because some guys that he might want could still be in the playoffs. There are steps to go through to get that permission from teams and stuff like that. But as far as John Lucas is concerned, I think the ball's in John's court. The Rockets are big fans of John. They understand what he brings to the table. At the same time, this is a new head coach in Ime. They might not, have that, string of a relationship. So you have to see, does Ime want to work with John? Does John work with Ime? Does John want to work, in a more advanced front office role? All those things on the table right now. I would say the ball's in John's court of what he wants to do. But, it's still mid-May. People are still, taking their time away, trying to regroup, decompress from the season. It was a long season. So, if you told me that John was not going to be on Ime's roster, on the staff, I wouldn't be as surprised. But if you told me that John was going to be in the front office in some capacity, that kind of makes more sense to me. So that's what I would say.
Could Jason Tate be traded?
I think so. I think anybody could be traded. I think the Rockets have this kind of weird forward logjam. And, whenever Eric was here, it was kind of the same thing in terms of trying to find minutes between everybody. And right now, he had an injury-filled year. The play kind of went down because of, the inconsistency, trying to get on the court, getting back too early, tweaking the ankle again, the knee, whatever have you. But he's still, in in the locker room, he's still a leader. In the locker room, he's still one of the best defenders. He's still one of those good culture guys you speak of all the time. A lot of playoff teams would want a guy like Jason Tate. So it's to be determined, what his future is. But I think Ime can do a lot with him, honestly, just because of the defensive capability that he has and the want to. Ime's a defensive coach and wants to instill that culture in those guys going forward. You need guys that are already on the roster that actually give a crap about defending.
Right.
He's one of those guys. So, I do think if you're a Rocket, you're going to evaluate everything. And teams that have been interested in Jason Tate, they have expressed in the past. I do expect them to continue to express that going forward. But, I would give it some time before, to see how this roster plays out, free agency, the draft, before you get into all that.
Do you think KPJ stays as the Rocket starting point guard?
No, I don't think so. I just think that, we've seen the experiment and it's had its bright moments, but ultimately it's putting too much pressure and too much responsibility on Kevin's shoulders. He's best when he's in a free roam role. He's able to just score. He can still create for others, and credit to the Rockets over the last 2 seasons, they've improved his playmaking and ball handling to be able to make some of those reads. But and I wrote this earlier, he doesn't have to be your every down back. He doesn't have to have all that pressure on his shoulders to create for everyone else. I don't think he'll be the starting point on next season. I do think that if they end up getting Scoot or if they end up bringing in a veteran point guard, I think that would be their starter. And it's not a knock on Kevin because that's just not who he is. He's an athletic wing who can slash, who can shoot, who can create. He can do a lot of things, but he's not a traditional playmate like point guard of what they need right now. They need somebody that's going to be a quarterback. They need someone that's going to command order, command respect, and get guys in favorable positions. That's what they need right now. We saw last season kind of the chaos that we saw between Kevin, Jalen, all those guys trying to create for each other and create for themselves. It just wasn't working. And that's because they don't have a traditional, not even a traditional, a modern day lead ball handler. And you can get though, that's why you see the James Harden, that's why you see the Van Vliet stuff. That's why you see them, the Scoot stuff. But, those guys are better served off the ball and being able to now run the show in pinches, but not having to do it every time down the floor.
This is for you, Mr. 7 out of 10. Harden's coming back. If the Rockets re-sign James, how many years and how much money would you offer him?
Ooh, that's a good question. How much is he making this year? 33?
Something like that, yeah. Mm-hmm. We know it's not max. We know that.
It's not max. You can't give him a max. That's nuts because you're basically taking yourself out of every other free agent running. So I would go as high as 2 years. I would go 262.
Okay.
And I would see. I give him a 1+1. Just give him a 1+1. Give him that flexibility. So it's essentially a 1-year deal, $31 million. See what if he takes it. There's a lot of reasons to come back. Even the money you're making, the money you lost in Philadelphia, whatever their income tax is, coming back to Houston, getting that money back. Playing in Houston, being familiar, being on the community, being around your family. A lot of it makes sense, but I'm not going higher than 2 years. Now, granted, you understand if you're James, you're going to want your max. You gave up money on you left money on the table for them to go sign Daniel House, to go sign DeAnthony Melton, and to go sign PJ Tucker. And you played pretty well. You've had a pretty strong playoff campaign, right? You played phenomenally in 2 of your team's most important wins in a long time, and they're going to a Game 7 tomorrow. They have a chance to go to the conference finals. Nobody can sit there and say you can't ask for that kind of money. You can't ask for 40 million, 35 million. But are the Rockets in a place right now where they need to be committing 2/3 of their cap to you? I don't think so. Now, things can always change, and when teams get desperate, you know, we've seen that in the NBA when teams get desperate and they throw money at something because they just need something to change, right? But if I'm the Rockets, I'm not going harder than two seasons. That's just too much.
Saying that, do you think Tillman is at a point of desperation where he would push 3 or 4 years for
No,
James?
because if you go back to what Tillman said, they're in phase 2 right now, and
Mhm.
phase 2 is, getting back to the playoffs. So if they've done their internal calculus and they believe that James Harden is the easiest answer to get to the playoffs, then hey, anything can happen. But the fact that he said phase 2 and not phase 3, it means that the desperation level is like they're aware of it, but I don't think they're like, we gotta get this thing now, right? I think there's a bit of a separation between phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. If had this been phase 2 and this was the second season of phase 2, then yeah, I think that they're much more inclined to being uber aggressive in terms of the money on the table and the years, whatever, to entice James to come back. But I think they would love to have him back, but it has to make sense for both parties, right? And $31 million is a lot of money. Let's keep it a buck. It's not. I mean, because of how the NBA is now, it is taking a discount. But if you're taking a discount for a good cause, I think you could sell that as well.
Do you think James will come back?
Do I think he'll come? Like me personally,
Yes.
I still do. I do. It's too much smoke. It's too much
Yeah.
smoke. It's too much smoke. I mean, the interest is there on both sides. The history is there on both sides. You could ride off into the sun, come home, get your jersey retired here. You might build a statue of you. Like, it makes sense. Like, if you don't win it in Philly, or even if you do win it in Philly, if you win it in Philly, it's the perfect write-off scenario, right?
Mhm.
You won, you left because you wanted to win the ring. You won the ring, and now you're coming back to be around your people. If you don't win the ring, you fell short, but you gave it all you could for 2 seasons and came back. So I don't think he's in a lose-lose. I think he's in a win-win spot, whatever he does right now, because of how he's played and because of what's the Sixers have done around him in terms of, they honestly should have won Game 6 at home. I think that was a missed opportunity there. But if they end up losing in Game 7 in Boston, can anybody be surprised? I mean,
Right.
And that will be another consecutive season losing the second round. So I think at that point you know what your ceiling is. So you wouldn't fault him for leaving anyway. But me personally, if you ask me, do I see James Harden returning? I think the answer is yes.
This question, I think this is pretty obvious to me. But Hoop Junkie, what is the order of the Rockets' hierarchy, if they ever have one? They have one, right?
Me right now, like the players on the roster right now.
That's yeah. Hoop Junkie, are you talking from players or are you talking from administration on down? So either one, take it how you want to take it.
So player wise, I think all things go through Scoop first. I think he's the top dog there right now. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, he's been there he's been there a pretty long time. He's the last. His name is introduced last in the starting lineups. He's got the double locker. Like he has, it's Scoop. I think so, and he feels like as if it's his team too. Now, in reality, is that the best thing for them moving forward? I don't know. Jalen is going to have a claim to say. Jabari will have things to say about that as well. But when you look at hierarchy, one of the reasons why they struggle is because at times they kind of lost sight of what the hierarchy should be. Sometimes it was Scoop Jalen, sometimes it was Jalen Scoop, sometimes Jabari was in the mix. Like it was a lot of things going on. You were there, you saw it. There was a lot of stuff going on the floor at all times. So I think they need order. They need someone. They need to establish hierarchy, And that's the good thing about getting in Ime, because all that player stuff is done now. Ime in town, he's the top dog,
Right.
and everything comes after that. You get in line to what Ime is saying. That's gonna help them a lot because it takes the pressure off. Like when someone is making the decisions for you, and you allowed to just listen and be free, it makes things a lot easier, right? So, um, last season, I would say that the hierarchy was Scoot first, but moving forward, I don't think that's going to be the dynamic at all with this team. I think it's going to be totally different from top to bottom, and Ime is going to fundamentally rewire that organization from the inside out.
If the Rockets land number 3, do you see Stone aggressively trying to trade up at 2 to pick Scoot?
Well, that depends on if you think Scoot is going second, right?
Right.
Like I I don't watch the NFL as closely, but I did follow the draft and followed you guys what you guys talking about drafting. This whole thing about C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson, and you at the times you won't know until you're on the clock, right? Like when you get that intel of this, we want to get this guy. You can't. You'll hear a lot of smoke screens early on.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But you won't until draft night. Everything is just conjecture. Everything is just spectacle. Once you're on the clock, once teams are on the clock, then you're going to be okay. Are these guys leaning in this direction of getting Scoop? Yes. Then let's move up and try and get it. Let's try and play everything on the table to get 3-2. But is Scoop going to be the end all be all for them? I don't think there's not that kind of draft. Like this is not a situation where like it was Cade, Jalen, Mo, that kind of stuff where you want to move up aggressively to get one of those guys if you can, as opposed to like a Jalen Suggs, all those guys. But I do think they're going to look at anything, trying to move up, trying to even see if they can trade that pick, for now. Granted, they're more inclined to trade the pick if it's 5 or 6,
Right.
but if it's 2 or 3, the premium of that trade goes up, right? So like, there's a difference in this class between 1 and then there's 2 and 3, and then there's 4, 5, 6. I think there's a difference from those 3 tiers. So if they get a pick in the 2 or 3 range, and they want to trade it, they will be asking for much more than the kind of player they would ask for 5 or 6, if that makes sense. But going back to the question, if they get 3, would they want to move up and get 2? I think they'll explore it, but at the same time, you got to see who has 2, and if are they behooved to move off of 2? Like these teams are picking top 4 for a reason, right?
Right.
They don't have something.
Right.
So, I think it'll just take the mix of the right package, the right combination, whatever.
What's your thought process at 2? You like Scoot Henderson more than Brandon, or Brandon more than Scoot Henderson for the Rockets?
Ooh, I've been going back and forth on this for like weeks. Like, and this is why I wish that free agency was before the draft. Is like you can actually, it makes sense, but it doesn't make sense. But right now, I'm gonna lean towards Scoot, because I just think leaders are worth more. Like guys that can bring order and structure are worth more. And we've seen Scoot. He's a great at operating the pick and roll. You've seen shade of John Wall, young John Wall, D-Rose, and his pull-ups in the mid-range, calling out the snake dribbles and attacking people in drop, and being able to, push that in and out dribble and just push the pace. And he's still not a great shooter, but he's a rhythm shooter, if that makes sense. And
Yep.
but more importantly, he's going to get guys where they need to be at all times, and that's worth more than a little bit more than a wing and a Brandon Miller, who's going to be very good, a very good two-way wing, but you still don't have someone to create for them, right? If you bring in Brandon Miller and you don't get a point guard, you're still at the same problem you were last season. So that's not how you move forward in the rebuild. You need to get out of this mess and how you get out of this mess is by getting in, actual point guard help. That's their biggest need. So if they're able to do that, that's kind of why I have Scoot a little higher than Brandon Miller, but it's not like a chasm. It's not a wide jump between the two. But personally, I have him above Brandon Miller.
Understood. And me and Spo are the opposite. We have Brandon Miller a little bit ahead of Scoot for the Rockets.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not like it's a huge difference.
So if you were to tell me that the Rockets can assure getting a veteran point guard, then I would go Brandon Miller and get the point guard in free agency.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not as sure of getting those wings, whatever have you, then I would go. I mean, if you're not sure of getting a point guard, then I would go Scoot. It's just it's like part of it is like tampering. Like you gotta know.
Well, yeah,
you gotta know. Like
that's how I kind of put it. Like if James let it be known, yo, fellas, I'm coming back to H-Town.
Then it's easier to go and get the talented wing and deal with the rest later. But it's yet to be seen. It's tough. I might have Brandon over Scoot tomorrow. Like it's just one of those things.
H-Town's finest with a question and a contribution to the show. Thank you very much as always. Will the Rockets use the second pick or package it?
Will they use it?
Yeah. Use the pick as a pick and keep it. Let's say keep it the pick. And the player. Pick? Yep.
So you're asking me if they would use the second pick, draft a player with
take a player and keep it for this year's roster.
At 2? Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
No. The other first round pick.
No, I mean they could, but I don't see what the point is. You could just trade that pick and get. If I'm them, I'm done bringing in. I'm done.
Yeah.
I did it for 3 years. What am I bringing in? No, I trade that pick. Unless it's someone that you really, really like at 20, there is no need to bring in another project to this roster. Like you're just gonna it's just I wouldn't do it. That's me personally. I wouldn't do it. But if they did, who knows? But yeah, it has to be someone that you really like.
With James Harden, James is a Rocket, and Rockets win the lottery, get Wemby. Predict the Rockets' record this coming season.
With just those two, with the same roster, just those two guys added,
and one more veteran.
They finished with 20 and 62?
22 and 60.
Oh, 22 and 60. Is he giving them 15 more wins? I don't know about that, but they could. Possible.
Okay, because I know some fans want to know it as well. They've asked me.
It's possible. Like,
are they a play-in team?
I mean, who's the other veteran?
You decide. Who'd be the ideal fit for the Rockets in that scenario, getting Wemby and James Harden?
They still need shooting, so I would go Cam Johnson or something. Can they be a playing team? That'd be close. I mean, I don't see how many wins you need. Like 30.
It was about 40 this past year. This past season, around 40.
22 to 40 wins?
Yeah.
No. I think they'll be close, but I think they'll be a little short. But I think it'll be close. Like it's closer than you think. Like if you told me that they made the plan, I wouldn't be shocked.
If Harden comes back, is he the franchise player again?
Franchise player meaning like. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's going to be the franchise player over him?
Nobody's better than him right now. So, yeah.
That's his city. Like, if he comes back, first of all, I want to see I want to see the process of him getting his locker back. Because currently, that's his locker. So
right.
He's going to be like, you can go find your stuff over there. Or that's going to be hilarious. But no, if James comes back, that's James' team for sure. But it's a different kind of James' team. It's not like 15 through 2019 or things like that.
Any scenario where the Rockets shop Şengün? Well, it makes sense,
Shop Şengün. I mean, I wouldn't shop him. I mean, let me play this. At some point, anybody should be on the table, right? For the right deal. Um, but should they be trying to actively move Shangoon? It depends on what you're trying to get back. Like if you're trying to get a rim protector veteran that's like a legitimate. Like if you told me you could do a sign and trade for Brook Lopez, would I say yes to Shangoon? Probably not, because Brook Lopez is 35 years old.
Mm-hmm.
But if you told me, Miles Turner was available, it might be more amenable to that, just because of the kind of impact Miles can have on both ends of the floor, and he's still at an age where he can be part of your core for the next 4 to 5 years. But Şengün is a talented young player. I don't think there's a reason why you moved up to get him, and I think you should still see what you can do with him with a different head coach. So I don't think they should be shopping him right now, if that makes sense. Now, you still need to get other types of big men around that roster, which is what Ime spoke to during the press conference. But, you don't need to just be actively shopping him right now.
Chris Paul, you think they should try to bring him back?
No. I mean, I see the merit to it because of, but no, it's nah. You can spend that money somewhere else if you're gonna do that. I mean, you don't need. First of all, it's not gonna be like the health. That's the number one thing. Like how much does he have left in the tank?
Right.
Like, he is one of the greatest point guards the game has ever seen, but what does he have left in the tank right now to give? Like he's unavailable when the team needs him the most right now. And it's not his fault, but like you can't get past that. You have to. That's a real thing you got to deal with.
Should the Rockets go after Jaylen Brown?
100%.
And what would you? Your GM, Rockets GM, what would you offer for Jaylen Brown?
Jaylen Brown right now. Wow. My top pick.
Even if it's number one?
No.
Okay.
No, if it's number one, no. Good day. But 2, 3, hey, if Jaylen, but Boston's gonna ask for a lot. That's the thing. Like, am I putting Jabari in that deal? I might. I probably would. Yeah. But if they ask for Jabari and Tari, whoo, that's a lot. That's a lot. But would I do that? Jabari and Tari? I think I would. I don't think to move Jaylen, it would have to be like, that's a hard thing. I think I'd be comfortable with moving Jabari. I think you could talk me into adding Tari, but I would have to get something back as well. But it would be a mega deal, but I think you could talk me into the top pick, Tari and Jabari, and then maybe screw. The point, if I'm Houston, I'm trying to keep Jalen Green if I can get Jalen. I'm not trying to give up Jalen Green to get Jalen Brown. I'm trying to keep him and get Jalen Brown, but that might cost you Jabari, Tari, whatever. But I think I would think about that.
With Jaylen Brown being second team and now eligible for the 5 years, was it $290 million? Do you see Boston paying him and JT what almost was combined like $600 million?
I can't see that. Unless you got to be guaranteed of them getting you to the finals. Now, you have a pretty good shot to do that. And because your competition might be dismantled, Milwaukee might be a very different team. Toronto, Miami, you just never know. You have to compare it to, like, what's the opportunity cost? Like, if you let Jaylen Brown go, are you confident in building around Tatum and getting back to the finals? If not, then you might have to cough up that change. But, do all the owners want to do that? I don't think so. It's a lot of money to commit. It's a hell of a lot of money to commit.
Indeed. So let's see. A lot of folks don't trade Jabari. Keep Jabari over Jaylen Brown. Tari got to stay. Tony M, I ain't trading Jabari or Tari.
Well, you're gonna think like that, then
I mean,
you're not gonna get anything. You're not gonna get anything. So at some point, everyone has a price, and if you're getting an All NBA player and Jalen Brown, that's kind of worth something.
and Jalen's contract is up next summer,
Yeah, next
right?
summer. It's not this summer. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
not this summer.
they can always wait till next summer's free agency when everybody's off the table, and then get really busy if they want to do that. But
But I mean, honestly, Rockets trade for him. They'd really
yeah.
want
So
him.
that's why I would if I'm
Yeah.
Houston, I just wait. I just wait to
Yeah.
see if I get him free agency. I just wait.
Yeah, because Boston has to decide if they want to invest
Right.
$600 million in
Right.
two
Right.
dudes. So yeah. So, all right, let's see. All right, KJ Martin. What do you think the Rockets will do with him?
I think they're gonna wait and see what happens with how their free agency goes first, and then come back to that. I still think they want to keep him, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's dangled in any of these signing trades or trying to upgrade the rosters because of their current logjam. This is going to get pretty stacked going forward. So I do think that they still like him. He has improved every year he's been on the roster, but again, I would just like a number player. I wouldn't be surprised if they quote unquote shop him in terms of trying to see what they can get for him around the league. He is at the point of his career where he's due for a big salary increase. He's probably going to earn anywhere between 10 and 15 million, this summer if they sign to that because he's a restricted free agent. But can you use that salary to get someone else that you're looking at? Maybe trying to entice Brooklyn with the Cam Johnson, or trying to entice with Austin. There are different things you can do with him, and they have a lot of avenues that can go. They can always just pick up that fourth year and just say, you can test free agency in 2024 if they want to do that as well. They have the flexibility, and I think because they have more pressing things on the docket right now, they don't have to worry about getting to pay KJ right now. They have time before they got to do what they got to do.
I'm gonna get back to the fans' questions in a second, but you said it. You said his first name. If the Rockets, I'm gonna ask you now, if they don't get James Harden,
you think get Austin Reeves, man.
There you go. That's where I was going. Austin Reeves.
Throw the money on Austin Reeves, man. Throw the money.
How much
per year? Like 18, 19. I'm done.
So more, definitely more than what the Lakers can match because they're capped out what they can give him.
There's going to be a number that the Lakers can't match, and if the Rockets are smart, they're going to throw that money at Austin Reeves because they need that guy on that team. From whatever standpoint, culture, on the court, off the court, that's a great human being. Period. And you need people like that are selfless, that want to work hard, that actually give a crap, and that can ball. Like we've seen him in this playoffs rise to the level of occasion time and time again. He's not scared of the moment at all. He has that dog in him, and the Rockets need players that have that dog mentality. So Austin Reeves makes a lot of sense, and he's a great player. He can lead the show at stretches. He doesn't have to be your every down back. He's not I wouldn't call him that, but he's a good player. He's a good player. He can create for others. He's a quality scorer, and he's a hard-nosed defender. It's a no-brainer.
Are Garuba and Jacob going to get moved?
I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're not on this roster at some point. Their development hasn't panned out how the team has wanted, and granted, it's not all their fault because they have to get on the floor and they haven't gotten consistent minutes to do so. But like I said, they're in a position right now where they're trying to make the playoffs. They're not trying to. The cute days of rebuilding days are over. I think this whole sit around and let the young guys grow and develop. I don't think Tillman has the stomach for that anymore. After 3 years of this, he's trying to get back to the postseason. Anybody watching the playoffs right now wants to be in the playoffs. That's where the best basketball players are. So, guys, those are fringe. Those guys are fringe roster guys. I wouldn't want to be shocked if they're not on the team's plans moving forward. But that's yet to be determined. So I wouldn't. That's a bit premature right now. But I personally wouldn't be shocked if they were on the team going forward. Me personally.
Daisha Nix.
Another one too. Like he's a good player, but I don't think he's NBA level right now. think he still has some things to develop with himself in terms of being confident and just being able to like. There's a lot that goes into being a point guard, and he killed the G League. He wrecked the G League, but
Right.
there's a talent gap from the G League to the NBA for a reason, and so far he hasn't shown that ability to bridge that gap.
Do you think the Rockets will go after Chris Middleton, or should?
Yes, but to an extent, the health concerns me a bit too. He's also a very talented player, but he's going to be quite expensive. And can he really be that lead? I mean, can he be that lead guy on the team? I don't know. I mean, he's a pretty damn good number two, but um, they don't have a number one right now. So he's not the kind of guy you go chasing if you're in this kind of spot with the Rockets. So you need. I would go a bit younger, a bit more, a bit healthier, a bit more team friendly. Before I find a Robin or a number two.
Man, we got some fans are hard, man, on Austin Reeves, man. They're asking, comparing him to a possible Chandler Parsons, man.
Why? Is a bull white?
Yeah, I mean that's part of it, I think. But Chandler got injured and Chandler was way more in.
Yeah, that's a different. Yeah, that's a different situation.
Different kind of dude, man.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing.
Yeah, I don't think Austin is about that fashion life, all that kind of stuff like Chandler Parsons was. Man, um, is Ime or how close is Ime on picking his staff?
I wouldn't. I know he's actively working at it. I wouldn't say it's particularly close. Just because, like I said, there are guys that are still in the playoffs that you want to interview, that you have been able to speak with yet. So I wouldn't call it close. I don't think you're going to see tomorrow his name for news. I don't think we're like that, but I think it's still a process. It could. I think some conversations will be had during the combine. Some conversations could be had. Summer league, like it could be a thing that goes to summer league. Like you never know. Like the assistants, it's different than picking your head coach. Like that one, you want to get out the way. But when you're picking your assistants, Ime has full time, and like he's gonna run the show. Like it's not like the Rockets did with head coach, where they bring guys in, they interview. It's not like that. Ime has the show. He knows who he wants. He knows who he can work with, who he's comfortable with, and you go after those guys. Now the Rockets can offer, their advice and their insight on certain names out there, but it's going to go at Ime's pace. So until we've seen that, I don't think we can definitely say, oh, he's going to hire two guys by next week or something like that. I don't think so. So it's going to to the process.
Another one from Solo D'Lo. Will Ty be a part of the Rockets' future?
I hope so. I think he's a good player. I think he got kind of squeezed a bit in terms of the rotation because of how many guards they had in the roster. But I think he should have a future. I think he knows how to play the game. He knows how to play the position. It's just him was a confidence thing, was a reps thing, was a rhythm thing. He didn't have a lot of that in his rookie season. He was constantly going up and down to the G League, coming back up. Like it's hard to get a rhythm when you do that so much because the G League is a very grueling, very tasking and grueling schedule. Like the travel, all that stuff, the high amount of games, and then having to come back up, playing in Houston and playing maybe garbage stuff. Like it's difficult. So I think there's a player in there for Houston, but they're gotta wait and see.
And we know part of this. Is there an expected date of a new practice facility being finished? Any location? The location is the Galleria area.
Yeah, the Galleria. I think Tillman said it's not gonna. It won't be ready for this next season, but I could see them. Maybe 24, 25. I think they could. But I'm very intrigued to see how that goes. I think it could be a huge thing for them, but I want to see exactly how the dynamics of that practice facility, because they haven't had one, ever, really. So I want to see how that goes.
And this question from H-Town's finest. I like Jakob Poeltl, but what center free agents can the Rockets? Do you think the Rockets would go after?
Yeah, Poeltl's a good one. Plumlee's also another one for sure. Brook Lopez, if that makes sense, like age-wise and money-wise. I would look at those three names for sure. Maybe even Mo Bamba. Like there are names that you can. They have enough money to where you can look at these names going down the list, and it makes a lot of sense because Ime has played Robert Williams, Al Horford, those kind of bigs, but even if you can't find those exact replicas in the market, you still can bring in defensive-minded bigs that can stretch the floor or that can crash the glass. There are guys out there like Brook Lopez fundamentally changes everything for Milwaukee on both ends of the floor. He should be one of the strong options. Jacopo, we saw what he did in Toronto in terms of bringing balance to that roster a little bit. Even though they fell short, but it wasn't due to a lack of him. Like there wasn't. I wouldn't single out Jacopo. And Plumlee, always a smart veteran, knows how to play the game. Those are the kind of guys you should turn to bring in.
How much do you think the Rockets should offer Brook Lopez?
I wouldn't go more than 16, personally. I'd like to. Anything more than that, the age, I'm not going more than 16. I would give him 233 and see if he takes it. And then use the rest, maybe get another wing and then leave the rest for James and see if he takes it.
Do you think the Rockets will trade the Nets picks?
I mean, they should at some point. I mean, I don't know how viable those picks really are in terms of how high they're going to get you. Those are not lottery picks, if people. So they're mid to late first at best, right? So they could be used as sweeteners in the deal, but I don't. At this point, you don't want to just keep stockpiling draft picks. You have to turn those into something. You're not going to keep adding players. There's a world. The best teams don't do that. Like, you have to go and get guys that are ready to win now. So you have enough assets to go and do that. Now go and do that.
Cam Johnson, where is he on your list of?
He's high. He's high up there. He's high. It's everything you need in a wing right now. I mean, he's not all defense guy, but he knows how to defend 1 through 4, 1 through 5. He can shoot the lights out the building, and he's a great guy in the locker room. Like, those things make you need players like that. First of all, this Rockets team needs shooting like yesterday. He's one of the best shooters out there. I think it's a no-brainer. He can play the 4, he can play the 3. He can defend. He can put the ball on the floor a little bit. We saw how he played in Brooklyn, like at close the season and the playoffs. Like, it's a good player. Like, he's young. Like, interest is there. Interest is real. Like, I think they should definitely be aggressive in pursuing that. I know he's restricted, so Brooklyn probably wants to keep him, but on to there's a certain level, there's a certain extent to every player has that line. The Rockets should try and see what that line is and try and push as hard as they can.
So, if you're a GM, you're a Phil, would you offer Cam more money than Austin Reeves per?
Slightly. I wouldn't. I'm not paying Cam more than 22. I don't think that's high as I go. But I'll put in they'd be in the similar range.
Should the Rockets? How about Dylan Brooks?
He did make All NBA second team defense. So let's not act like he's some trash NBA player. He's still one of the talented guys on the roster. So I do think that there is a player in there. It just comes down to, like I said, the money, the years, the role within the team, stuff like that. So,
D'Angelo Russell.
No, I don't think I'd go. I don't think I'd go D'Angelo Russell. I think good player, but you could get other point guards out there.
DeAndre Ayton. Trade for him.
What are they asking for? That's the thing.
What do you think? Because it seems like he's done in Phoenix. So,
it's a good player. I mean, I'd explore it. But he's also how much did he make last year? 28.
Something like that. Yeah, a lot more than he's produced.
I'm not touching that guy. It's too much to have for the cap. That's too much. No. You can get that production elsewhere. You don't have to no, I wouldn't do that.
Grant Williams.
I like Grant Williams.
It wouldn't cost much.
Wouldn't cost much at all. Like is he restricted? No.
That, I'm not sure.
Okay. Grant, Yeah, I'll keep him up there. You need guys that are good culture, like guys that can help you build that team scheme. Guys that know you may, Grant played under you may. You need players like that. So yeah, I'll put him up there for sure.
Justin wants to thank you for taking time answering the fans' questions. It has been kind of rapid fire, but hey,
That's cool, man. It's off
yeah.
season, man.
So
It's
it's
time of
all
year.
good. Where are you gonna be Tuesday? Watching the lottery.
I'm gonna be in Chicago. I'm gonna be in Chicago. Um, Looking forward to seeing how that goes in terms of being in the room and just seeing everything going on. It's gonna be a pretty Jesus.
Man, somebody's gonna be very happy, man. Somebody.
Somebody's gonna be over the moon.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh my god. It's crazy.
Because we know one person who would hope it. This guy.
Pray for Victor.
He'd be thrilled to pieces, man, if that happens. Christian Wood.
What about him?
Bring
Bringing him back? Oh wait. Christian Wood?
That ain't happening. No way that's happening. I know the person was being funny, but I just wanted to put it out there.
No way. That's a funny character right there.
I can't think of the person who's going to be in the room when the picks are made, but who's representing the Rockets? Because Ime is going to be on TV. But who's the person? What's the name of the person in the room? The lawyer, attorney for the Rockets. Who is it? I forgot his name.
Clay. I forgot his last name.
Yep, but he'll be in the room, so he'll see it, so he'll know.
It's the general counsel. General counsel.
But he can't say anything because they'll take all the phones and stuff, so he has no communication with the outside world until after everything is announced. But yeah, Ime will be in there with Ben Wallace. Ben Wallace brought the Detroit luck once before, so we'll see if he can do it again. And like I said, you heard it, before I brought you on. If Detroit wins the lottery at 7:35 when we start the show on Tuesday, Rocket fans, family, for a minute or two, y'all can time me. I'll be acting ignorant for about 1 minute or two, and then we'll get into talking about the Rockets and what they're going to do. That's an if. But if the Rockets win the lottery, all of y'all can act ignorant. I'll play the clip of Tillman saying, "Pray for Victor" on loop for a while. Y'all can have fun and all that kind of stuff. But because if he became a Rocket, the attention to him, the generational talent for him, be happy days for the franchise and fans to be excited and all those great things as well. Let's see. Kyrie, a Rocket.
You said Kyrie?
Kyrie, yeah.
What about Kyrie?
Should Rockets go after him?
You know what? It's not. Wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. It's not going to be a bad thing either. He's a great player. I mean, it would come with a lot. Kyrie is a very complex individual, so you would have to have certain measures in place and have to have a certain level of patience and understanding. But I think he's a damn good point guard. One of the best that this league has to offer. So on court, and we never heard any player speak ill of his leadership. We never heard any player speak ill of his personality. So I think that would go a long way.
Should the Rockets trade the Nets picks back to Brooklyn?
They're not giving you coverage. They are not giving.
That's not happening.
They tried to get him. It wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, your thoughts on this? Kyrie to Phoenix for Aiden Middleton to Dallas, all that kind of stuff.
Top one was Kyrie to Phoenix. Kyrie to I don't know. I think they want to keep him, but if going to Phoenix makes sense. Playing with Kevin Durant again, chasing him around, giving him a book, it makes a lot of sense. But we'll see.
And wrap it up with my man Kelly Iko, Trae Young.
Wow. I wouldn't go out. I think it's too much. It's too much baggage with him. Great player, but too much baggage. I think you can get without the drama for less. He's going head to head with coaches. Great player, but it's too much off the court stuff.
All right, I'm going to end the poll, and the leading projected starting five was the Victor Wembanyama was the preferred choice by the Rockets, obviously, But how How many people have you talked to who don't believe the Rockets should draft Victor?
Zero.
There are some fans who don't. you know,
Well,
Big Sarge, media wise, is not as high on Victor as the rest of us. So
that's true. That's true. But I think he's wrong there. I think Victor is going to change the trajectory of any team he goes to. So he's going to take some time. He's not going to come hit the ground running, but that's a generational player right there. You don't see those guys every year. So I think you just get that guy. It's the reason why Tillman said that.
Yep.
Thanks, Justin. I appreciate it.
And I'm gonna give you the hand clap as well, my man. If it'll play, there we go.
Thanks for having me on, Kris. The OG.
Always.
You saw after Berman retired. I was gonna tweet. They got to update the Houston media power ranking, Houston media depth chart.
Man, because it's Berman. He's retiring. Fagan, and it might be me. It really might be me. Wow.
Longest tenure, man. That's OG.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is. I talked to him afterwards to make sure he was good. He said, "Yeah." So,
and I told him I was gonna do. I said, Mark, you're not gonna do this another 3 years. You're not gonna do. You're gonna be with your grandkids. I told him that.
Yeah.
Like, you can't let. And I'm happy he did because he served the city for almost 40 years. You can't let work take over your life at some point. You got to enjoy the rest of your life. So, hats off to him, man. He ain't missing much in Houston, so
yeah,
he ain't missing much.
Kelly Iko, my man, appreciate it. You have a safe trip in Chicago,
sir.
And hang by your phone. I might bother you again in a couple of days.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Anytime.
All right. Let's see. All right, Rocket fans. Let's see the question here. Who's going to hang out? Well, that's a good question because that was a Berman thing. So I don't know, and I wonder who they hire to replace Mark Berman, Scoop Berman, if that person will put in the work that Scoop did. So time will tell on that. But yes, Mark Berman from Fox 26 Sports, Houston, Fox Houston, whatever the title is officially, announced his retirement will be June 12th. And he's taking time to be with his family, man. So, and be sane, because this is a stressful ass job, man. But as always, KDC about the soup in the locker room. Forgot to ask Kelly about that. I want to do it at another time because I hope to get Iko on again sometime this summer. Maybe even we'll do something for Vegas as well. Who knows about that summer league kind of thing. So it might be now. It's Fagan, then me. I think. Wow. So yeah, that might be the real deal. I might be the second oldest Rockets media person. Damn. Woo. All right. Boy. Rocket fans, Tuesday, May 16th, roughly 7:35. Be here for the next edition of Let's Talk Houston Rockets, and we will discuss the results of the lottery. And man, be nice Rockets get the top pick and no 4th, 5th, or 6th. None of that stuff. What Rockets can't finish 5th. No worse than 5th. But as always, to Andre, Solo, KDC, H-Town's finest, the folks, Alan Luna, for your contributions. Alan and H-Town, thank you for that, for the super chat contribution. Tony M, Justin, let's go on, Dre Fields, everybody. See y'all here Tuesday, again, May 16th. Spend some time here because I'm pretty sure other Rocket outlets will be having a show as well to discuss the results of the lottery. James Tryon, CEO. But see y'all, spend some time here at the Houston Roundball Review YouTube channel on Tuesday. So everybody, take care. Peace.